What's up, you football degenerates? It's SOG Football here, back with my critically acclaimed weekly power rankings ranked in tiers. If you disagree with anything I'm saying, I want you to be the first person commenting below, being the first to tell me that I'm an idiot. And without further ado, no fluff, let's get right into it. Starting off with number one on the list, to come as a surprise, the New England Patriots moving down 3 spots after their abysmal game against the New York Jets where they got dominated. Clearly, you can't win with that pedestrian of an offensive line. You have arguably the worst receiving core in the NFL. You have one of the worst offensive lines now. The defense, hell of a defense, but your best players in offense can't just be Ramondre Stevenson and the tight end Hunter Henry. You just can't win games that way. And then next up, to no surprise, the Carolina Panthers, who look pretty damn good with Andy Dalton at the helm. They have potential to move up on this list, but they were playing so poorly that I just can't move them out of this last tier yet. Andy Dalton threw 3 touchdowns in the first half, and Deontay Johnson no longer wants to off himself with a capable quarterback at the helm. But I need to see more. They still have Derek Brown injured on defense. Their defense isn't that great, but their offense is showing some promise. And then we're going to move on to Tier 5, the first team on Tier 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. It sucks because Trevor Lawrence was showing some promise, showing that he could be one of the rising superstars in the NFL, but I'm pretty sure he's like 0-10 in his last 10 games. The sad part is this team has no identity. They can't convert on any third downs, and this defense is pretty much just Josh Allen now. They lost their star cornerback, Tyson Campbell, and no one else is stepping up for this team. At 0-3, I'm pretty certain this team will not make the playoffs. And then next up, the team without Tua Tagovailoa. This Dolphins team has collapsed without them, scoring just 33 points through 3 weeks, which is insane. Their defense has showed some promise, but this has went from one of the highest scoring offenses in the league to one of the worst without Tua at the helm. They lost Skylar Thompson too, so Tim Boyle at quarterback is just not the answer. And then next up, the New York Giants, who again are a team that upset. So right now, I still have my questions about Daniel Jones. I don't think he's going to be a guy, but man, Malik Neighbors is showing to be probably an up-and-coming best wide receiver in the NFL. He's an absolute superstar, and it seems no matter who's throwing it to him, he's just going to produce. He doesn't really have a weakness, and he's going to be a pleasure to watch for the rest of the season and throughout the rest of his career. And then next up, another disappointing Cleveland Browns who absolutely sewered me in my survivor teams, moving down 10 spots after their disappointing loss. Deshaun Watson gets that record-breaking deal, but maybe the Browns are doing something on the side to make sure his legal problems get him out of some of that guaranteed money that was astronomical, completely revamping the quarterback market. The worst part about it is this team's strength was its offensive line, but then they're losing their star tackle, Conklin. They're just losing too many guys, and now this offense is just a complete crapshoot. Crappy O-line without Nick Chubb, they don't really have a chance. And then, obviously, you're looking at their defensive line, which Myles Garrett is a superstar, but he's injured both of his feet. It's just looking shaky. And then next up, a team that I think is just a phenomenal defense, moving down 2 spots, the Tennessee Titans. For as good as their defense is, all of that goes to waste with how pedestrian their offense is. Obviously, it's just Will Levis cannot succeed. He's not that good to succeed with as poor as an offensive line as they have. I think they've got some decent players around, but the defense just can't do it all, especially with whatever game plan that they have. And then we're going to go in to the Tier 4, which is the struggle to make playoff tiers, with the first team, the Las Vegas Raiders. I usually have this saying with certain teams, the old fake team alert. And after their win against the Baltimore Ravens, it was pretty clear, fake team. This fake team is actually at risk of having Max Crosby miss the first game of his entire career, the guy who just plays every single snap on defense. It almost seems like a matter of time before he kind of came down to earth. Obviously, he's the best player on this defense by a country mile. And then on offense, they just can't get anything going. With Gardner Minshew, who got benched for Aiden O'Connell, and then Devontae Adams just can't do it all from the passing game. And then we're going to move on to the Denver Broncos, which, again, a team that got to upset. Moving up 6 spots, I actually think they have enough talent to squeak into the playoffs, especially when you have Bo Nix, who's starting to come along. Sean Payton, I mean, the jury's still out on whether it was just Drew Brees that was perfect for his system. But Bo Nix has shown some promise. He shows some ability to actually be able to run this offense. And we'll see how he does going forward. Moving on, we have the Indianapolis Colts staying right where they are. I think Anthony Richardson is one of the best talents in the NFL when it comes to raw ability, but that's just it. Too raw. He can't make those short throws, those rhythm throws, and it's just tough to succeed when you're pretty much just relying on your run game and then your ability to throw it deep. He's got to be able to, throw those hooks, those outs, those just quick read plays. Otherwise, defenses are just going to be too easy to game plan against them. And then we're going to move on to the Chicago Bears, who obviously are going to go as far as Caleb Williams is going to take them. The problem with Caleb Williams now is he can't do these plays that he did in college, this crazy, extending the plays, making ridiculous throws. That's not going to happen at the NFL level. Everyone on the field are just ridiculous athletes, and you don't really have that good of an offensive line in front of you. I think it's going to help with Keenan Allen coming back and this defense being as good as it is, but just Caleb Williams has shown that he's not even the best quarterback of his rookie class. And then moving on, the Los Angeles Rams, who just had an insane win against the San Francisco 49ers, even considering all the injuries they had. But that's just it. So many injuries on both sides of the football, especially on offense. Cooper Kupp out until who knows when. And then just more injuries on the offensive line. They don't have Puka Nacua either. And you got to give credit to Matthew Stafford and kind of the game plan that Sean Payton has. They're just game planning for the mix and match, the lost toys that they have at wide receiver, and they're still winning games. The problem is I don't think that's sustainable. And then moving on, a team that I'm really excited for, the Washington Commanders, moving up 9 spots from last week after a ridiculous win this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. And the most ridiculous part about it is Jaden Daniels looks ridiculous. Currently leading the league in completion percentage and one of the top 5 in passer rating. I personally thought he was going to, the same complaints I had about Anthony Richardson, where he can't make those rhythm throws, those quick read throws. He's doing it all. Credit to Cliff Kingsbury in this offensive scheme, where they're doing a college-style offense, just like Cam Taylor-Britt said, but it's perfectly fitting for Jaden Daniels. So much has to be said about putting the right scheme for the quarterback you have, but here's the problem when it comes to Commanders. As explosive as this offense can be, this D is horrible. That defense just could not stop Joe Burrow. I don't know how Joe Burrow went off for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, ridiculous game, and couldn't come out with a win. Moving on to the next tier, and speak of the devil, we're on to the sneaky good teams, and I know they just lost to the Washington Commanders, and they moved down 8 spots. I thought they had the ability to move up, but after 0-3, the only 0-3 team that I have left in this list, the Cincinnati Bengals. Wow, this defense really shocked me with how bad they are. I love Cam Taylor-Britt. I love Trey Hendrickson. Even some guys like Sam Hubbard. It's just, I don't know what's up. Jermaine Pratt also good, but this defense couldn't do anything to stop the Commanders. The thing is, the Cincinnati Bengals are notorious. I think the past 3 years they've started 0-2. They're just notorious slow starters that could easily turn it on. I think they have enough talent to turn it on and somehow sneak in the playoffs. Obviously, the odds are against them, considering how hard it is as an 0-3 team to do that. But I'm going to put my chips on them in the sneaky good teams category. But if they go 0-4, you can most certainly guarantee they're moving down. And then we're moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, moving up 3 spots after a loss. That more has to do with some of these teams moving down, but I'm just not ready to give up on these Cowboys yet. 18th ranked isn't horrible. I will say they showed a lot of promise offensively to make that comeback against the Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens were playing a little more conservative than they should, but that offense is dangerous. I think CeeDee Lamb's only going to turn it on, and eventually you'd think that this Dallas Cowboys offensive running attack will start to pick it up. The problem has been their defense. I thought this would be a great defense. Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, just a couple injuries at DB, but I'm not sure what's up with the Cowboys. I'm not ready to move them down from that sneaky good category just yet. And another sneaky good team, the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals, moving down 2 spots. I love Kyler Murray this year. I think he's going to be a phenomenal, as long as he can stay healthy, which is tough considering he's the smaller statue. I think they need to commit more to the rushing attack, get James Conner going, have more of a balanced approach, and they could win some games. They got some sneaky good talent on both sides of the ball. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, who's had some struggles with their offensive line in terms of injury, but I do think Kirk Cousins has the ability, with his Achilles injury, he's going to get even more comfortable. I think Drake London can turn it on, and Bijan Robinson, who hasn't really been living up to expectations currently this season. I think he's a freakish talent that will only just turn up. And then meanwhile, on the defensive side of the ball, which doesn't get enough credit, they have guys like A.J. Terrell, and then the best 2 safety duos in the entire NFL in Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates. It's just a really, really solid defense, and defense wins championships. Win a couple more games, and they will easily move up on this list. And then at number 15, we have the Los Angeles Chargers moving down 6 spots, not to do with anything other than Justin Herbert being injured. You have a kind of a makeshift wide receiver core. I think Quentin Johnson's turning it up. But without Justin Herbert, I don't think teams will show enough respect to this passing game. And if that happens, J.K. Dobbins, who's going off, leading the entire NFL in yards per carry, that's not going to be sustainable with a really crappy quarterback and teams not showing respect. On the defensive side of the ball, they're doing pretty good things. But you have Derwin James getting suspended for 1 game, which I don't really agree with. I'm more of the old school football approach. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another flat loss against the Broncos. It just seems like they really took them for granted. I'm not ready to give up on these Bucs yet, especially with Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield's kind of having a resurgence year. And looking on the offensive side of the football, Bucky Irving looking pretty solid. He's shot out of a cannon. I think it's him going to be getting more of that Rachaad White in between the tackles kind of rushing role, with Rachaad White being more of the pass catching guy. But I love Bucky Irvin. I love this offense, and this defense is pretty solid too. Moving on to Tier 2, one of the surprising teams in this Super Bowl Dreamer category is the New Orleans Saints. And we have Derek Carr, who kind of had his first game struggling. The thing is with the Saints, I love this defense. I think this defense is doing phenomenal, and I think this offense is just good enough to squeak out these wins considering how good their defense is. The problem is they lost their center, Eric McCoy, which is going to be a really, really big problem. I think this kind of offensive scheme relies on good offensive line play, so we'll see how they do without him. And then moving on, after a big win against the Cowboys, is the Baltimore Ravens, moving up 4 spots at this number 12 spot. And what's really impressive about this Baltimore Ravens team, which you kind of expected, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, this rushing attack, exactly what was advertised. My big gripes with the Baltimore Ravens were how bad this offensive line was, but we saw against this Dallas Cowboys team, which has been a struggling defense, but this offensive line was awesome. Their ability to rush the ball is going to be a key indicator of their success, and they have the classic, solid Ravens defense, albeit not as dominant as their regular early 2000s Ray Lewis-esque defense. Moving on to number 11, if you look at my comments, I commonly get called the biggest Seattle Seahawks hater in the world. Moving up 5 spots, I'm not ready to give them that top 10 status just yet because they might have had the easiest first 3-game schedule of any team in the entire NFL. They're having their first big test against the Detroit Lions on Monday, which, I'm betting on the Lions at that minus 3.5 point spread, which reminds me, if you're someone who bets on sports, I'm going to give out these little nuggets on these videos, but I run a free Discord where I give out all my picks, all my player props. This could be underdog, this could be Prize Picks, this could be FanDuel, DraftKings. I give it all out, and in the first weekend of football, I won 2.5K. I'm up over 20,000 on the 2024 year betting all sports. Trust me, if you're betting on sports, join the free Discord. I'll include it in the pinned comment below. But back to the Seahawks. If they win this tester game on Monday against the Detroit Lions, I'm willing to move them up. I think they're back into that legit category. The big thing I love about the Seattle Seahawks team is their defense. Their secondary is filthy. Moving on to the number 10 spot, the disappointing 1-2 San Francisco 49ers, and you're wondering, okay, how are the Rams number 21 and the San Francisco 40s are number 10? That doesn't make any sense considering the Rams won. I don't want to say it was a flukish win, but you look at a team like the 49ers, I just think they have too much talent. Too many guys are going to be coming back from injury that are going to excel their team and put them in that elite category. And really comes down to me betting on Kyle Shanahan. He's going to write this team back into solid category. And I will say if they lose this week, expect them moving down. Another team with a disappointing loss is the Houston Texans, who CJ Stroud struggled a little bit. Kind of sucks for the Houston Texans, who I think might be the most talent-filled roster in the entire NFL. But the beautiful thing about the NFL is the best team doesn't always win. I think the Houston Texans are a phenomenal team that are just going to figure it out. Moving on to number 8, the Jordan Loveless Green Bay Packers, who actually have been 2-0 with Malik Willis at the helm. Completely surprising, but I want to give all the credit, and I got to give credit to Pat McAfee for coining this term, but you got to give Matt LaFleur his LaFleurs. This guy deserves all the credit in the world because you see certain offensive schemes by coaches, they just don't care who's at quarterback. They'll just put in the offensive scheme and expect them to succeed in it. But he actually brought back his Marcus Mariota-esque offense. He brings the perfect scheme for the perfect quarterback that he has. He's not going to force Malik Willis into a Jordan Love role. He's going to give a scheme to Malik Willis where he can succeed. And obviously this Packers defense has been playing phenomenal. But speaking of defenses, and I meant Packers defense, obviously. But speaking of defenses, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I view as the number 1 defense in the entire NFL. The TJ Watt, the Minkah Fitzpatrick-led defense that is just killing teams. And then you look at their offensive side of the ball. I mentioned this last week. Justin Fields, I don't view as one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But we're talking about schemes that work perfect for the guys ahead of them. Mike Tomlin doesn't ask them to do too much. Just don't turn over the ball. Move the ball downfield. You don't need to score that much. Just make sure our defense is put in good positions to succeed. And obviously a defense first team. Moving on is the Philadelphia Eagles, who had a massive, massive win. And really what impressed me about this Eagles team was their defense. Obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, now you have A.J. Brown who's injured. That's going to be a killer. But Jalen Hurts, I actually drafted him in so many of my fantasy leagues. He's been rough. It's going to be even worse without A.J. Brown, but hopefully he cleans it up, and hopefully Nick Sirianni is not putting his hand in the cookie jar and just trying to do too much on this offensive side of the ball. You saw that key 4th down where they did the fake tush push and pitched it out. Nick Sirianni came out and said, yeah, that was me. Maybe Nick, let the guys you hire do their job. And it's pretty hilarious. This team won the game and Eagles fans are rooting for their head. Classic Philadelphia. Moving on to the number 5 New York Jets, moving up 3 spots. I think just like I said for Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers is only going to get more comfortable. Weirdly enough, Garrett Wilson's kind of been struggling, but it's only a matter of time before they build, I don't want to say Devontae Adams-esque chemistry, but it's only a matter of time before clearly the best wide receiver on this team gets those massive performances and this offense just starts steamrolling. And then you have Breece Hall, who is awesome, but behind him, Braylon Edwards, kind of that physical bruiser type back behind him. I think that 1-2 punch is going to pay dividends, especially when we get into those cold weather games later in the season. And then this defense, as advertised, with Sauce Gardner leading the bunch, Quincy Williams, just some beast on the defensive side of the ball. And then another team that I've been being called a hater for, but finally showing them some love, is the Minnesota Vikings, moving up 8 spots. It's about damn time I show them some love, especially their defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, who has just made these defensive players, a bunch of killers. These guys are just smashing teams, and they just have that killer mentality. I love this defense. I love Aaron Jones. I love this team. Sam Darnold, it's crazy to me. You're top 10 on MVP watch. I wish you nothing the best. I think I heard it before. It just seems like the only team that hated Sam Darnold was the Jets, and then he goes on the Panthers, the Vikings. They love him. His teammates love him. He seems like the type of guy you can't build a team around, but he's going to come in and win some games. And then moving up to the number 3 team, the Detroit Lions, moving up 2 spots. Another shaky performance, even though it was a win, but a lot of talent on this Detroit Lions team. The only worry is Jared Goff, who's really been struggling, but you have David Montgomery, you have Jahmyr Gibbs. We talk about teams that can just rely on the run game, not turn over the ball. That's what the Detroit Lions should be doing. You have guys like Aiden Hutchinson, who is a clear candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, 7 sacks so far in this season. I love this Detroit Lions teams. Detroit Lions team, I think they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and they're one of my sneaky teams to win it all. Moving on to number 2, the Buffalo Bills. And when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, I'm a little worried. I have been a little worried about this defense. They have a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and it just seems like Josh Allen is playing like the best quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, he's done that a past couple seasons before and fizzled out, but he's crazy talented. He's making Khalil Shakir look like a superstar on a 60% snap share. It just seems like they're going to win games with their style of football. And their defense is only going to get healthier going later into the season. And then I got to pull this up here. We got the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes not playing the best football of his career, but it doesn't matter. This defense is stupendous. And this offense is only going to figure it out. Andy Reid's too good. Patrick Mahomes is too good. And even though people are calling him wash, Travis Kelce's too good. I love what Patrick Mahomes said in the press conference talking about how he was looking at Travis Kelce, but the safety's coming down, the linebackers coming down, they're double teaming him. You're not going to throw to a double guy just because he's doubled, just because it's Travis Kelce. You know, Rashee Rice is going off on these short passes, and you know a lot of credit goes to Travis Kelce getting all of that attention. And then later in the season when Isaiah Pacheco comes back, it's only going to be more dangerous. I love this Chiefs team. I think people are completely... I mean, how can they be underrating the 2-time defending Super Bowl? Maybe it's just because they love hating them. But until someone can beat the Chiefs, they're staying at this number 1 spot. Anyways, that concludes my list. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Go comment below, even if you disagree with me. I love learning things from you. I love hearing your opinions. Please like the video, and I appreciate if you got it this far. You're a legend. I just really want to keep talking about sports, want to make this a career, and these power rankings are fun to do each week. If you guys appreciate it, I'd love to hear from you. This is awesome to do, and have a great day. Enjoy some Thursday Night Football.